Good morning, folks. We've got a hell of a show lined up for you. Things are moving and grooving. So let's get at it. Grab your coffee, grab your pen and pencil for the roundtable discussion at the end of the show, and let's do this. Good morning, everybody. Boy, do we have a lot of breaking news today. Let's get right into it. First of all, Yuscil Tavares, the former IT guy in Mar-a-Lago, right out of the gate, right out the gate. Summer Beach, appreciate the support. Hi to Miss. She says hi, Mrs. Tech. I can read. I promise you, I can read. Hi, Texas Paul and Mrs. Texas Paul. What a day. Amen. Amen. It is just crazy out there. It's just raining news. Some days we have to just figure out what the heck are we going to do to what are we going to talk about for an hour? And then some days are like today. How are we going to squeeze it all in? Thank you, Benaloco. I appreciate the support right out the gate. Hit that thumbs up and share all on all your social media. Absolutely. I appreciate that, Benaloco. Let's get to it. Yuscil Tavares, the IT guy down at Mar-a-Lago, also known as the Mar-a-Lago Songbird, is singing. And it is over for Donald Trump. It is over for Donald Trump. This is all the nails in the coffin. And it's just one piece of evidence against him. And it's just what's happened. And I've got to say special thanks to Ben Meiselas over at the Midas Touch Network. He always breaks things down, all of the legal minutia down in easily to follow. I will put a link down in the description to his take on what's been going on here. He breaks it down. It goes through all of it. 15-minute description of exactly what's happened. I'm going to give you the Cliffs Notes, the short version. Yuscil Tavares lied. He lied under oath. You remember Jack Smith has convened 2 grand juries in the case, one down in Florida, one up in D.C., prior to any indictments. He had 2 grand juries running, which is normal for a federal prosecutor. If you commit a federal crime, say you just an example, just make it up. Say you live here in Texas with me. You run a fraudulent scam up in New York. You run television ads up in New York, scamming people out of their money. The banks that you link to have these people send you money are in Florida. A federal prosecutor, and this is the whole purpose for a federal system, can convene district grand juries in Texas, Florida, and New York because elements of the crime have been committed in all 3 states. That's what Jack Smith did here. There were elements of the crime that occurred in D.C. There were elements that occurred in Florida. So he conducted his investigation in both places, convened grand juries in both places. He called Yuscil Tavares to testify before the grand jury in D.C. as he did Carlos de Oliveira. We'll get into him more in a minute. To testify before the grand jury in D.C. De Oliveira and Tavares lied. They got a bad case if I can't recall. I don't know. No, I never heard about this. This is just, I don't know what you're talking about. Cameras, something or other. No, not me. I don't know. Wasn't me. Well, then you've heard in the past, I'm sure you have if you've been following this, our audience stays up on everything, that they subpoenaed the camera footage from Mar-a-Lago from the company that they contracted with. They were unable to destroy the footage that was kept in their database. When they got that camera footage, it showed Tavares and De Oliveira and Walt Nada talking about what they were going to do with the camera footage and all the documents. So Jack Smith went back to Tavares and said, "I'm going to charge you. You lied. I'm going to charge you. It's that simple. But you got a choice. You can dump this crooked attorney that's working for Trump. You can get a real attorney and you can retestify and tell the truth, or I'm going to charge you for lying." And Tavares took the deal. He said, "Absolutely. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it." And he went back before the grand jury and he testified that, yeah, De Oliveira, you remember us talking about this a couple of weeks ago. De Oliveira came to me and said, "Boss wants all the records destroyed. Can you delete all the footage that shows us carrying the boxes with all of the classified material out of here?" And just, oops, the pool overflowed and we lost our cameras. And he just sang. This makes what Judge Cannon did down in Florida look even stupider, folks. I mean, not only is this just the death knell to Trump's defense, because what happens from here is De Oliveira is going to flip. They're going to get their Garcia hearing down in Florida. De Oliveira is represented by a lawyer by the name of John Irving. Tavares was represented by Stanley Woodward until he fired him and took a federal public defender. They're going to have that Garcia hearing. You remember when they made the motion for a Garcia hearing before Eileen Cannon? She said a bunch of stupid things. She did a bunch of stupid things, and I told you, don't worry about it, folks. Don't worry about her. Don't worry about anything she can do. And I want to put this to bed now, because every time I say this, you'll get somebody that says, "Oh, but she's in charge of the sentencing. Even if she can't put a monkey wrench in the works, she's going to sentence Trump." Folks, she has sentencing guidelines, and if she varies from those sentencing guidelines, it can be appealed. It will be appealed, and Trump will be sentenced appropriately. I mean, that she is not smart enough to derail this case. She isn't. Everything she's done is completely stupid. And again, I'll refer you to, I'll put it down in again, another great video from Ben Meiselas over at the Midas Touch Network. Uh, Forgive me. Ooh. Oh, man. Another great video from Ben Meiselas over at the Midas Touch Network, where he breaks down how Eileen Cannon has absolutely screwed herself with these idiotic, they're not motions. They're just, when she reached out to Walt Nada's attorneys, acting as part of his defense, saying maybe you should file a brief about you know getting the case dismissed because there was a grand jury up in D.C. Well, the filings that um, Jack Smith filed before Jeb Boasberg, he sent a copy down to Eileen Cannon and addressed that issue and put it to bed, explaining that this grand jury was held before any indictments. He committed a crime with that grand jury by lying. Therefore, everything is pertinent to be done in DC regarding what Tavares did, what De Oliveira did. Everybody that testified and lied, That is in the purview of the DC grand jury, but out. Eileen Cannon now has that brief in her hands. What's the net result? Nothing she can do about it. Not a damn thing. There's nothing she can do about it. I appreciate the support, Marcia. You gotta you gotta cut that out. You really do. I mean, I know I make a joke about the DFW area, but you gotta cut that out. That's just terrible. That's terrible. I love it, but it's terrible. So back to Eileen Cannon. She is now going to have to hold that Garcia hearing because it is public knowledge that these people lied under oath. It is public knowledge that their attorneys of record were their attorneys when they lied under oath. That is number one. Two, these attorneys represent other witnesses and, of course, Donald Trump. They're paid by Donald Trump. Therefore, thank you, Snow Leopard. I totally agree with you. Donald Trump is a tub of lard. That's a great one. Eileen Cannon with a Q. That's a good one. Hunter Harpo, that's a good one. But yeah, now they're going to have to hold the Garcia hearing, which means Dale Rivera is going to get another attorney. That means Walt Nauta is going to get another attorney. They're going to flip, folks. They just are. It's not a matter of when. It may have already happened and we just haven't been notified by it yet because Jack Smith is a professional prosecutor. He's not going to sit there and put a press release out that says, oh, by the way, Walt Nauta is in my office spilling his guts today. You know, when you don't have someone's political action committee, some billionaire funding your defense, you tend to get a little bit closer to reality, folks. You really tend to get a little bit closer to reality. And what does this mean for Stanley Woodward? You know, if it's proven when these attorneys get removed and these folks come before the grand jury again and they start telling their story, the question's going to come up. Who told you to say what you did when you lied? Who told you to lie? Suborning perjury is a crime and it's a disbarable offense. Linda Thalman, I sure appreciate the support. I do. 10 pounds is a lot of money. Thank you. So again, we're looking at Stanley Woodward, another attorney who is facing legal liability, criminal liability, probably the loss of his law license over Donald Trump. I mean, why? Why do these people do this? You know, we have another attorney, Cheese Bro, old Kenneth Cheese Bro. A little bit of news on him this morning, and while we're talking about attorneys that have destroyed their lives over Donald Trump. A little bit of news on old Cheese Bro this morning. Via Anna Bauer on the site formerly known as Twitter. Old defendant Cheese Bro Kenneth booking number. The Cheese Bro has surrendered himself this morning, been fingerprinted, and mugshots are coming soon. I promise you. I promise you. And I am sending a text to my good friend Brett Mysalis over at the Midas Touch Network. Personally, I want indictment baseball cards. And if you want indictment baseball cards, let Midas Touch know. I think it's a great idea. Brett is just a genius, a digital genius. He could come up with Midas Touch baseball cards, indictment baseball cards for all these guys. with cliff notes on who they are and why they got indicted and why they destroyed their lives for Donald Trump. Because, you know, folks, these are not like ambulance chasers. Linda Blanton, I appreciate the comment. She asked, "Did you hear about the issue of Jessica Watkins going to a male prison and reaching out to Marjorie Taylor Greene?" No, I'm not following you there. I really don't. I've been following what's been going on with Trump and a couple other issues, a little bit in Ukraine. I haven't followed that. I'll look at it. Feel free to let us know in the comments what's going on with that. But oh my God, if it's Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know it's going to be either hilarious or infuriating. But yeah, I mean, let's look at that. How many lawyers that actually had careers? Now, Cheeseborough was successful. He was. He was making money. I mean, he he had a life. And now it's over. I mean, it's over. These charges are not complex, folks. These charges are not complex. John Eastman, we've got John Eastman's mugshot. Uh, you know, here he is. He surrendered yesterday. I got his mugshot right here. Give me just a second. Ugh, that is an ugly picture. And I guess nobody told him as an attorney you're supposed to smile in your mugshots. That guy just, it's not scary. I don't know the right word for it. I mean, weird doesn't do it. I don't know, man. But anyways, yeah, he's done. He surrendered also. That's another one, John Eastman, gone. And he was, before he met Trump, he was making money. He had a successful practice. And it's gone. Jenna Ellis was a right wing. She was making money within the Republican Party. She was working on campaigns representing people. Her she's done. She hasn't surrendered yet, but she's done. We got Rudy Giuliani that just has been a stellar fall from grace. I mean, once America's mayor is now being booked today. He will be booked this afternoon. Forgive me. This is Rudy Giuliani on his way to being booked this morning. When I was prepping this show and putting it together, Rudy Giuliani was leaving his apartment building, preparing to fly down to Florida to Sorry about that, folks. We had a little bit of a technical issue there. Blinked out. I apologize. I do apologize. Had a power issue. Had to boot back up. Suddenly lost power for a second. I'm gonna be honest with you because I never lied to you. My producer, you see his producer stand in the back there. Her producer stand in the back there. Um, just freaked out underneath the desk when I accidentally stepped on her and shut all my power off. So I apologize. Dolly Parton decided it was time for a break in the show. I hope you refilled your coffee. I hope we're good. I shouldn't laugh. I sincerely apologize for that. But anyways, we're good. Back to what we were talking about with these attorneys. We've got Rudy Giuliani that if you're as old as I am, you remember back in the day, he was given all kinds of credit for cleaning up New York, and then he was the mayor during 9/11. I mean, for years after 9/11, you just everything that Rudy Giuliani said, it was a noun, a verb, and 9/11. I mean, to see him end up being booked today. This is him this morning at you'll see the timestamp on it. It's 8:15 Eastern time. He's leaving his apartment.
To Georgia, and I'm feeling very, very good about it because I feel like I'm defending the rights of all Americans, as I did so many times as a United States attorney. People, people like to say I'm different. I'm the same Rudy Giuliani that took down the mafia, that made New York City the safest city in America, reduced crime more than any mayor in the history of any city, anywhere. And I'm fighting for justice. I have been from the first moment. I represented Donald Trump, an innocent man who has now been proven innocent several times. I don't know how many times he has to be proven innocent, and they have to be proven to be liars, actually enemies of our republic, who are destroying rights, sacred rights. They're destroying my right to counsel, my right to be a lawyer. They're destroying his right to counsel. It's not accidental that they've indicted all his lawyers. Never heard of that before. In America, all the lawyers indicted. Now, whether you dislike or you like Donald Trump, let me give you a warning. They're going to come for you. When the political winds shift, as they always do, let us pray that Republicans are more honest, more trustworthy, and more American than these people in charge of this government. Because if our government is conducted this way, and the system of justice is politicized and criminalized for politics, your rights are in jeopardy and your children's. Donald Trump told you this. They weren't just coming for him or me. Now they've indicted people in this case. I don't even know who they are. These are just regular people making a normal living. They're going to bankrupt. They won't convict them.
So much wrong with that. So much wrong with that. First of all, the threat just, I mean, you know, he's been hanging around with Trump for so long now that I guess he can't help himself. But that threat, of, we're going to come for you. But first of all, this is not for the American people. He's not being indicted for the American people. He's not standing up for the American people. That's not what a coup is. And he's lamenting that they're coming after the lawyers. Well, I tell you somebody that would go after the lawyers. If Rudy Giuliani had been able to tie any of the mob lawyers that were representing the mafia figures that he indicted and convicted, he would have absolutely thrown the lawyers in jail right next to him. Being a lawyer is not permission to commit a crime. Rudy Giuliani was part of the coup. And that's not politics, folks. That's the opposite of politics. Democracy, it's not said enough. Democracy is war in a form that we don't have to kill each other. That's what democracy is. And the beauty of democracy isn't in the winning, it's in the losing. It's in the understanding that you'll live to fight again another day. That is the strength of our system, and when what these people did literally destroyed the bedrock of our democracy. If you cannot lose, if you're unwilling to lose, we don't really have a democracy now, do we? And that's what they did. That's what Rudy Giuliani did. And he's fallen so far. He's fallen so far. He's leaving his apartment there to go down to Georgia to surrender, to be mugshotted, to be fingerprinted, to be released on bail. But he's traveling with his longtime friend, disgraced police commissioner, pardoned by Trump, Bernie Kerik. This is a picture of Bernie Kerik being released from prison. He was convicted on tax evasion and lying to investigators. Let me say that again. New York Police Commissioner Bernie Kerik was convicted on tax crimes and lying to investigators and sent to prison, and then later pardoned by Trump because Trump is a disgusting individual who likes criminals, I guess. That's who's traveling with Rudy Giuliani down to Georgia to surrender himself at the county jail. I guess because Bernie knows jails. And the reason Kerrick's going with him is Rudy Giuliani's just falling apart, folks. I really want to highlight this. What's going on to these people that are in this orbit? Yuscil Tavares is facing charges for lying to a grand jury. And he's the first to flip, so he gets the best. I'm sorry, folks. I am truly sorry, folks. That's unprofessional as hell. That one's on me. After I hurriedly plugged everything back in, made sure I turned everything back on. I never pushed the power strip back, and I just stepped on it myself because when I talk, sometimes I stomp my foot. I'd love to blame this one on Greg Abbott, but this one was on me. I am truly sorry, folks. That's unprofessional as hell. Will not happen again. I promise you. Took the producer's desk out and kicked her out of the room We are good. We are all good. But we were talking about Rudy Giuliani. You know, Rudy's in a mess. Rudy is in a real mess. He's facing several high-profile lawsuits. One is the Ruby Freeman lawsuit, where he has been sanctioned, and that one fined $90,000, and then after his uh, and I'm not exactly sure why he admitted. I guess he's just stipulated it because it was so easy to prove um, that he lied about Shay Moss and Ruby Freeman. He's been ordered by Judge Beryl Howell to pay their legal fees in this lawsuit. I mean, that is not cheap. That is not cheap by any means. I mean, that was a big hit for a guy like Rudy Giuliani. You know, he made some money shilling in Ukraine, but he didn't make money off Donald Trump because Donald Trump never paid him. So yeah, that was a big hit. 90 grand plus legal fees, and a lot of folks have guesstimated what the legal fees to be upwards of $400,000. Then he's facing actually losing that suit. He's still trying to argue that suit out. Um, he's not going to end up paying as much as a lot of folks would like because they're going to base the award off of the damages that Ruby Freeman and Shay Moss have had. And I hope they went out and hired a hella expensive security firm. But it's going to be based off their income and how much did he really cost them and what are their costs going to be going forward. That's why I say I hope they went out and hired a hella expensive security firm. And that's why the only reason he hasn't just and Judge Beryl Howell actually asked him, "Why are you still contesting this lawsuit?" I mean, that is really bad when a lawyer says, "Look, I've heard the evidence. Why are you contesting this lawsuit?" That does not bode well for you. That just means that you're adding up a tab as you go, and this judge is going to make you pay it. Spicy Dragon, you always have great comments. Rudy still owes his ex-wife $500,000. I mean, this guy's not rolling in cash. And then he's facing another lawsuit that is just going to, I mean, this not only is this going to potentially bankrupt Fox, but Trump and Rudy Giuliani are both named in the Smartmatic lawsuit. That's a $2.7 billion lawsuit. He's paying an attorney to represent him in. He's paying a separate attorney to represent him in the Ruby Freeman Shay Moss case. Now he's trying to find an attorney to represent him in Georgia and having a hell of a time doing it because, well, he's got no money. And yeah, he's got a drinking problem. Leslie Detchen says he drinks his money away. And as of this morning, he's supposed to surrender himself, and he still has no attorney of record in Georgia. Bernie Carrick was supposed to be trying to find him an attorney. But as of this morning, yet he's still representing himself. So what do you do? What do you do in this situation, folks? I mean, if you're Rudy Giuliani, what do you do? Well, what Rudy Giuliani did last week was he went down to Mar-a-Lago and he asked the guy that still owes him money to pay his legal bills. And if you know anything about Donald Trump, you know how that worked out. He walked away with a verbal promise to help him do fundraisers. He walked away with a verbal promise to help him pay his firm that stores all of his data. And I'm sure that was just a straight up threat. See, all Rudy Giuliani's records are stored with a data storage firm, and Rudy's behind on the payments. And if Rudy doesn't make the payments, he surrenders the data. And that includes all of Trump's data. And anything that he legitimately, or pardon me, illegitimately represented Trump in, as in it wasn't a actual attorney-client privilege matter, becomes up for sale and can be subpoenaed. So yeah, Trump offered to help him with those bills, but as far as paying his legal bills after Rudy destroys himself, nothing. Just nothing. And that leads us to Mark Meadows. And this one is just blows my mind because Mark Meadows is not an idiot, folks. He was an idiot to take the chief of staff job. Again, I don't understand why these people gravitated to Donald Trump. I mean, how many people do you have to see just utterly just self-immolate before you realize do not enter into Trump's orbit for any reason? Mark Meadows has filed to try to federalize his case. There's a law on the books. If you're a federal employee, if you're a special agent and you're doing an investigation and you're charged with a crime in the performance of doing that investigation, or you're, any federal worker, you're a clerk at a desk at the Department of Transportation, and you're running out to pick up lunch for the office, and you're drunk. You can federalize any charges against you. That's a law. It's to prevent local jurisdictions from impeding federal operations. Think about like the movie Mississippi Burning, where you had FBI agents down in Mississippi. The locals, you could try to arrest the agents, but it wouldn't matter because the case would immediately be federalized and there would be nothing you could do about it. That's the point of it. That law exists, folks. It exists. It's a real law. But you have to be doing your job. And there is a bright line within the government, especially the federal government. There are campaigns, and then there's your job, and they are not the same thing. Call your local representative and start asking his office. Call his congressional office, his or her congressional office, and start asking campaign questions. They will immediately say, whoa, 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 sorry, I can't help you with that. Let me give you the number to the campaign. Call and ask them. There is a bright, bright line between a campaign and doing your job. And as chief of staff, it doesn't matter that your boss, thank you for the support, Alexis Miller. I really appreciate that. I really do. It keeps the power on. I'm sorry. I shouldn't laugh about that. That was terrible. But what Mark Meadows is trying to claim, and Jeffrey Clark is as well, is that, well, I was a federal employee, therefore I have immunity from local prosecution, and therefore I don't have to surrender. I've been ordered to surrender by this Friday, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it because I believe my case should be federalized. And that argument is going to completely fail. And Fannie Willis has said openly, if by Friday he has not surrendered himself, if Mark Meadows and Jeffrey Clark have not surrendered themselves, there will be arrest warrants issued for their arrest, despite the fact that they have a hearing coming up Monday on this matter. Because the hearing is irrelevant, folks. I want you to think about this. You're the federal judge that's being asked by Mark Meadows to federalize a case in which you were not acting as a federal employee. But because the law exists, Mark Meadows is entitled to make the argument. He may have some way to prove that he was acting on behalf of the government, on behalf of you and I. He has to be afforded the opportunity to make that case on Monday. But it's irrelevant because what you're asking that judge to do is to say, I have decided on this case before I've ever heard this case, before I've heard the arguments from the government, before I've heard your arguments, before I heard anybody's arguments to make this case. I'm going to decide that you don't have to surrender yourself in a case that you have been charged in. And no judge. Diana Turner says, Meadows is from my state. He always seems to get out of trouble. Yeah, but again, Jack Smith, Fonnie Willis, these charges are simple. They're straightforward. And like I said, this argument is so simple. Like I'm laying it out to you. No federal judge is going to say, without hearing the arguments, that yes, I think that we're just not going to let any local jurisdiction do their job. We're just not going to do it. I've already made up my mind before we have a hearing. That's not going to happen. There's not going to be an emergency injunction preventing his arrest. And even when they hold the hearing about this, no judge is going to decide for Mark Meadows. It's just not. They're just not. The two things don't coalesce. They don't work with each other. Just because you federalize a case doesn't mean the case isn't still handled by the state. It is handled by the state. It's just handled in a federal courtroom. You would still have to surrender yourself. So, like I said, this is just a stupid, irrelevant case. It's just throwing spaghetti at the wall, hoping that you can get the right judge that's willing to break the law for you. And it's not going to work. It's not going to work. And again, it leads me back to my original premise. What the hell are these people thinking? How many people have to be destroyed? Like Rick Wilson says, everything Trump touches dies. And in Rudy Giuliani's case, he can't even get the guy to pay his bills that he's owed for his legal work, much less help support him in the legal issues that have come up arising from the work he did for him. And it just makes me wonder, it's like Stanley Woodward and John Irving. You're next up to bat. Your guy just confessed to lying to a grand jury. Who told him to do that? Maura Garner, Maura Garner says Trump is the bankrupt king. Yeah, amen. Amen. You know, who in the world is Rudy Giuliani going to get to represent him in Georgia? You have to know you're not getting paid. You're going to have to only do it for the press, and it's going to be negative press at that. And just look at this and think about it. You know, we've got an international audience here. Just ask them in the chat how much of this gets into their news feed in the countries they live in. Damn these people. Damn these people for doing this to us. I mean, this puts us in the same category as Italy with Silvio Berlusconi. This puts us in the same category as Israel with Benjamin Netanyahu. Damn them for doing this. You know, we like to hold ourselves up. We like to hold ourselves up as this is what democracy should be. But this, folks, is not what democracy should be. Democracy, its beauty and its strength is in losing, not winning. It's easy to be a winner. It is. It's easy to be a winner. But losing and accepting it, you do that for the country. You know, Trump and everybody around him keeps saying, "I'm being indicted for you. I'm getting convicted for you." No, no, you're not. You're destroying us. You're destroying what we are by being indicted and being convicted. If you wanted to do something for us, you should have embraced your loss. You know, last week I played a clip from Al Gore in his concession speech where he spoke so eloquently to talking about eloquently about getting behind our new president. And that man knew, Al Gore knew at that point that he had won that election. They had enough information from the ground that that man knew. Imagine what was inside his guts because the law, the safe harbor, you know, the Election Act of 1887 and the safe harbor provisions legally meant that his opponent was the new president of the United States, despite the fact that Al Gore could prove it. And he stood up and said, "This is our laws. This is democracy. We don't destroy the country. We do what's best. And I wish my opponent well. I hope he does well by the country." That's taking one for the team. He could have drugged this out. He could have drugged this out. You know, he could have filed case after case after case, drugged them all to the Supreme Court, and proven that George W. Bush was an illegitimate president. But he did not do that. He made the choice to take it for the team. Compare that to Donald Trump and Rudy Giuliani. Al Gore's just a better man. He's a better American. Devin Senderowitz says, "I said in 2015, if Trump was elected, it would destroy the party. Premonition granted." Well said, sir. Well said. But you know that's what the Republican Party, and this is what I want to sum this up with, so we can get to our roundtable. That's what the Republican Party is. It's what they've become. They've never represented the majority of people. They haven't. They've always represented the interests of billionaires that fund their party. They've got dozens of them that just dump money into the Republican Party, and they represent those interests. They've never represented the interests of the people. Therefore, they've always known, when it comes to elections, at some point, the dog's going to figure out the trick. At some point, the dog's going to figure out you ain't throwing the ball. And when that day happens, you're going to have to give up on the game. And that's what the Republican Party is doing. They've given up on democracy. They've given up on our country. You look in state after state after state, what their actions are. The way they try to just pass laws that say, we win. No matter what, we win. We're not going to let you vote. That's what the Republican Party is. So as an American, you have a job. If you want America and you want your democracy, you have a job. Diana Turner says, nothing worse than a sore loser. Amen, Diana. And I appreciate the support. Thank you. As an American, you have a job. It's your job by every means to remove the Republican Party. It's your job to make them part of history, not the future. When a party makes an overt decision that they're going to try to engage in a coup, and it is the party, it is not just Donald Trump. You've seen that, we had Ted Cruz ready to, file for those, he wanted those delays on January 6th. They were working and working and working to make this happen as a party. When you have that, they have to go if you want a democracy, because they're not going to stop doing that. They're not. Look what's going down in Tennessee. I mean, it's every level of the party. You've got Sexton, the old Speaker of the House down there. Sexton holds a hearing on guns and gun violence. And what does he do? He packs the gallery with lobbyists from the NRA and gun manufacturers so that people can't get in. Then he fills the rotunda where people normally come in and voice their objections. He fills that with state troopers, and the state troopers tell everybody they can't come in because it's full. When you can see with your own eyes, there's nobody in there. That's giving up on democracy, folks. That's saying, I can't make an argument. I can't win your vote. They've got to be removed. They do. They've got to be removed. Jose Kelly says, I live in Tennessee. The state is full of MAGA idiots. And so's Texas. Here's the thing, though, Jose. They're loud, so it seems like there are a lot of them. And because of our behavior over the last couple of decades as Democrats, trying to be high-minded and trying to preserve a level of politics that never really existed. A high-mindedness, a high road. These maggots, that's what I call MAGA, maggots. These maggots have been emboldened. They're brazen. They're loud. So it seems like there's more of them than there really are. And there really aren't that many. I mean, it's a sad statement. If you took Republican maggot politicos in one section, Democratic politicos in another section, and then what was left are people that just don't pay attention to politics, that third group is bigger. It is. It's 30. It's about 25, 35, 40. So yeah, these maggots over here are not the majority by any means. Even in states like, you got Fee here that says Arkansas also. Even in Arkansas, you'll get a lot of head bobbers that go along, but that's not who runs things really. If you start showing up to vote, that's the problem in Texas is we don't have a Republican majority. We have complacency. People have just kind of thrown their hands up. They believe the nonsense, the propaganda, and they say, it's not worth voting. That's not true, folks. You can win in Texas. You can win in Arkansas. You can win in Arkansas if you show up to every election. To every election. And that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. Put the Republican Party in the dustbin of history. Show the entire world that we are a democracy. Show them that we are a democracy, a real democracy. That we are a republic that stands by its democratic values. That votes matter. Well, I appreciate it, folks. I'm sorry about the technical issues. One I blame on the cat, and one was my fault. That will not happen again. I'm moving some things around here after this show. But let's get to the roundtable. Let's get to the roundtable and talk about it. Any questions that you have? I know I glossed over what was happening in the news today. Mugshots for Cheese Bro are going to be coming out any minute. I promise you. Every news outlet, the Midas Touch, they're all trying to get their hands on that mugshot. And I want you folks, a lot of you folks, follow Midas Touch and follow their content. Let's put the request in with those guys. We want indictment baseball cards. There's something else that I've got going on here before we move on to the roundtable. Well, we'll kick off the roundtable discussion with it. There's a segment that I've been thinking about adding to the show. This show's about politics, and no apologies for that. That's what I am. I'm a political animal. I am a ride or die Democrat. But not everything in the world is politics. At least it shouldn't be. So I was thinking about adding a segment, especially with things like, we got football season coming up, and there are just things that we can talk about that don't surround politics. So I was thinking about adding a segment called the P-Free Zone. I've even created a video intro for it. I'll play it for you here. I'm thinking about introducing a segment that's just something that's politics free, where we can bring somebody in that may not agree with us 100%, but we're not talking about that. We'll discuss other issues. What do you think, folks? Should we introduce a non-politics segment every now and again to the show? I want to hear it in the comments. You guys, this is as much your show as it is mine. I'm glad to hear it, folks. Well, look, we've run out of time. I forgot it's Wednesday. Tony Michaels is starting. Hal Sparks is starting. Where's my sparklers at? I can't call Tony's group what he calls Tony's group because I'd like Google to not demonetize me. So I appreciate all the support, folks. I really do. Thank you. Enjoy the Tony Michaels show. Enjoy the Hal Sparks Worldwide Experience. Have a good day. This is Old Texas Paul out.